Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Welcome to this new lecture. So here in this video we will study a very important topic of chapter 4, that is light reaction or light dependent reaction, which is the first step of photosynthesis. In the previous lecture we studied that the process of photosynthesis completes in two steps. One that requires light is called light reaction or light dependent reaction, and the other that does not require light is known as dark reaction or light independent reaction, or also known as Calvin cycle. Now what is light reaction? The step of photosynthesis which takes place in the presence of light or which requires light is known as light reaction. As it requires light, so it is also known as light dependent reaction. Location: where does light reaction take place? So the light reaction takes place in the granum of chloroplast. What is granum? You may recall from chloroplast that granum is a stack of thylakoids, a bundle of thylakoids. What are thylakoids? Small fluid-filled membranous sacs. So light reaction of photosynthesis takes place in the granum or thylakoid membranes of chloroplast. Now if you look into this diagram, from this diagram we will explain the light reaction of photosynthesis. So as earlier I mentioned that light reaction takes place in the granum of the chloroplast. So it is initiated when photosynthetic pigments capture light energy coming from the sun. It is initiated when photosynthetic pigments capture light energy coming from the sun. And you know that photosynthetic pigments are organized into clusters, into small groups called photosystems. And there are two types of photosystems: Photosystem One and Photosystem Two. And each photosystem consists of several hundred pigment molecules, including, these are pigment molecules including chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenoids, and primary electron acceptors. So light reaction, it is initiated when photosynthetic pigments capture light energy, and photosynthetic pigments are organized into clusters called photosystems. There are two types of photosystems: Photosystem One and Photosystem Two. And each photosystem has several hundred pigment molecules including chlorophyll A, chlorophyll B, carotenoids, and primary electron acceptors, right? Now each photosystem has two parts. There are two parts of each photosystem. If you look into this diagram, one is called antenna complex and the other is known as reaction center. The antenna complex has many molecules of chlorophyll B and carotenoids. All absorb light energy and transfer it to the reaction center, while the reaction center has one or more molecules of chlorophyll A along with primary electron acceptors and primary electron acceptor and electron carriers. Now this is a close view of the photosystem. This is photosystem 2, also known as P680, as it absorbs light of 680 nanometer, so therefore called as P680. And it has two parts: antenna complex, which has many molecules of chlorophyll B and carotenoids. They are also known as accessory pigments. These absorb light energy and transfer it to the reaction center, which has one or more molecules of chlorophyll A along with primary electron acceptor, and these are electron carriers up to photosystem 1. Starting from this primary electron acceptor, Q-pytene, plastoquinone, cytochrome B, cytochrome F, plastocyanin, and finally comes another photosystem, that is photosystem 1. So light reaction is initiated when photosynthetic pigments capture light energy. So when sunlight strikes the photosystem 2 RP680, energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules, which loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged. It loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged with a deficit or deficiency of 2 electrons. Once again, when light strikes the photosystem 2 RP680, energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules, which loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged with a deficit or deficiency of 2 electrons. Now look into the arrow. The primary electron, these are 2 electrons, also known as photoexcited electrons. Photoexcited electron means energized by light. Now the primary electron acceptor traps electrons from the reaction center. The primary electron acceptor, that is Pu-13, traps electrons from the reaction center and pass them onto a series of electron carriers, making electron transport chain, and pass them onto a series of electron carriers, making an electron transport chain. Now if you look into this diagram, there are 2 possible pathways of the electrons in the light reaction of photosynthesis. This one is called non-cyclic electron transport. This one is called non-cyclic electron transport, while this one is called cyclic electron transport. This is cyclic electron transport, as the electrons are transported back into photosystem 1, and the other is non-cyclic. Non-cyclic starts from photosystem 2 to primary electron acceptor, then into a series of electron carriers, and finally the electrons are received by photosystem 1. So this pathway is called non-cyclic electron transport, and this one is called cyclic electron transport, which starts from photosystem 1 to FRS, ferredoxine reducing substance, and plus 2 quinone, and finally back into the photosystem 1. So this makes cyclic electron transport. So first we will study this non-cyclic electron transport or non-cyclic photophosphorylation, right? So now we will study the non-cyclic electron transport or non-cyclic photophosphorylation. So this non-cyclic electron transport of light reaction starts when the sunlight strikes the photosystem 2 RP680. Energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules, which loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged with a deficiency or deficit of 2 electrons. When the sunlight strikes with the photosystem 2 RP680, energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules and loses its 2 electrons. The chlorophyll molecule loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged with a deficiency of 2 electrons. These are 2 electrons lost by the chlorophyll molecule of the photosystem 2. These are photoexcited electrons, which means energized electrons, energized by light. Now the photoexcited electrons, these 2 photoexcited electrons are high energy electrons, are captured by a primary electron acceptor of photosystem 2, which is known as Pu-13. the lost high energy electrons are taken up by primary electron acceptor of photosystem 2, which is known as Pu-biotin, right? The second step. Now, if you look into the diagram and the arrows, from primary electron acceptor Pu-biotin, the electrons pass through a series of electron carriers, making electron transport chain, means the chain through which electrons are transported from primary electron acceptor of the photosystem 2 to photosystem 1, right? So from primary electron acceptor Pu-biotin, the electrons are passed along a series of electron carriers, making electron transport chain, and this electron transport chain includes PQ plus 2 quinone, cytochrome B, cytochrome F, and PC plastocyanine molecules. Now the third step is each molecule in the electron transport chain is alternately reduced when it gains electrons and is oxidized when it loses electrons. For example, plus 2 quinone takes or gain electron from Pu-biotin from primary electron acceptor, so it is reduced, and then it loses its 2 electrons, give its 2 electrons to cytochrome B, so is alternately oxidized. So each molecule in the electron transport chain is alternately reduced when it gains electrons and is oxidized when it loses electrons. When electrons are passed through electron transport chain, they lose energy. When electrons are passed through electron transport chain, they lose energy. This energy is used, the lost energy is used in making ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate using energy of sunlight. As these electrons have gained their energy from light, so the lost energy is used in the synthesis of ATP, adenosine triphosphate, from ADP and inorganic phosphate using energy of sunlight. This synthesis of ATP or this process of ATP synthesis from ADP and inorganic phosphate using energy of sunlight is called photophosphorylation. The synthesis of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate using energy of sunlight is called photophosphorylation. Phosphorylation actually means ATP synthesis. As it uses energy of sunlight, so it is called photophosphorylation. There are also another two types of phosphorylation known as substrate level phosphorylation and oxidative phosphorylation, which we will study in respiration later on. Here, this ATP synthesis in the light reaction of photosynthesis is called photophosphorylation, as it uses energy of sunlight. Now the electrons from plastocyanine are received by another photosystem, which is called Photosystem One or P700. The electrons from plastocyanine are captured or received by another photosystem known as Photosystem One, also known as P700. At the same time, the light also falls on Photosystem One. The light also falls on Photosystem One and activates its 2 electrons. Which are received by the primary electron acceptor of Photosystem 1, known as FRS, which stands for ferredoxine reducing substance. So at the same time, the light also falls on Photosystem 1 and activates its 2 electrons, which are received or taken up by ferredoxine reducing substance FRS. From FRS, looking to the arrow, looking to the diagram, from FRS the electrons are forced into an oxidized coenzyme NADP, nicotinamide adenine dinucleotide phosphate. The electrons from FRS, the electrons are passed into an oxidized coenzyme NADP, which is reduced. Now this is photosystem 2. When photosystem 2 absorb light, water molecule splits into hydrogen ions and hydroxyl ions. Some of the hydroxyl ions combine in making water. So the water molecule splits into hydrogen and oxygen. The electrons are removed from the hydrogen ions. So these are now called protons, hydrogen ions, electrons and oxygen. The oxygen is released into the air. This process is called photolysis. What is photolysis? The splitting of water due to light. Photo means light and lysis means splitting in the presence of manganese chloride and magnesium ions. So when photosystem 2 absorb light, water molecule splits. Photolysis occurs. Photolysis takes place, right? Releasing oxygen and electrons. So electrons from the water, look into the arrow, look into this red arrow. Electrons from the water are accepted by the positively charged chlorophyll molecule of photosystem 2. Electrons from the water are received or taken up by the positively charged chlorophyll molecule of photosystem 2, filling the gap produced by the two energized electrons. So once again, electrons from the water are received by positively charged chlorophyll molecule of photosystem 2, filling the gap produced by two high energized electrons. While on the other hand, the electron deficiency of photosystem 1 has been filled by the two electrons coming from the photosystem 2. So the electron deficiency of photosystem 1 has been filled by the two electrons coming from the photosystem 2. So as I mentioned earlier that in photolysis the water molecule is split into electrons, oxygen and protons. The electrons are taken up by the positively charged chlorophyll molecule of photosystem 2. Oxygen is released into the air and the protons, the hydrogen ions. Now coming back to FRS. From FRS once again the electrons are passed into the oxidized coenzyme NADP, right? While the reduced NADP receives hydrogen ions. While the NADP receives hydrogen ions from the water, making NADPH2. These hydrogen ions, look into this, hydrogen ions are protons of the water. Look into this red arrow. These are hydrogen ions coming from the water. They are taken up by the reduced NADP, making NADPH2. This NADPH2 has high chemical energy due to the energy of the electrons. And here the NADP is, so in this way the NADP is reduced into NADPH2, taking electrons, 2 electrons from the FRS and protons, 2 hydrogen ions from the water, in the presence of enzyme known as NADP reductase. NADPH2 has high chemical energy due to energy of the electrons, right? So this transport of electrons is called non-cyclic electron transport, because electrons do not move in a cycle. And the ATP synthesis during non-cyclic electron transport or non-cyclic electron flow is called non-cyclic photophosphorylation. And this ATP synthesis during non-cyclic electron flow or non-cyclic electron transport is called non-cyclic photophosphorylation, right? And this non-cyclic electron transport of the light reaction, this non-cyclic electron transport of the light reaction is also called Z scheme due to its shape. It is also known as Z scheme. Look into its Z shape. Due to its shape, this non-cyclic electron transport is also known as Z scheme due to its shape, right? So at the end, I will again revise it for you briefly. The non-cyclic electron transport of light reaction. This reaction starts when the sunlight strikes the photosystem 2p680. The energy is absorbed by the chlorophyll molecules, which loses its 2 electrons and become positively charged with a deficit or deficiency of 2 electrons. The high energy electrons or the photo-excited electrons are taken up by the primary electron acceptor of photosystem 1 known as pu-18. From primary electron acceptor or pu-18, the electrons are passed into a series of electron carriers making an electron transport chain. In the electron transport chain includes plastoquinone, cytochrome B, cytochrome F, and plastocyanine molecules. In the electron transport chain, in the ETC, the molecules are alternately reduced when it gains electrons and is oxidized when it loses electrons. And when the electrons are passed through the electron transport chain, they lose energy. This energy is used in the synthesis of ATP. The lost energy is used in making ATP in the synthesis of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate. This synthesis of ATP from ADP and inorganic phosphate using energy of sunlight is called photophosphorylation, right? The electrons then from plastocyanine are taken up or received by another photosystem known as Photosystem One or P700. At the same time, light also falls on the Photosystem One. Energy is absorbed and activates its 2 electrons. The activated electrons from the photosystem 1 are taken up by the FRS, pyridoxine reducing substance, and from FRS the electrons are forced into oxidized NADP, which is a coenzyme. The reduced NADP receives hydrogen ions from the water, which from the photolysis of water, and is thus reduced or changes into NADPH2 in the presence of enzyme NADP reductase. And when photosystem 2 absorb light, so the water molecule splits, photolysis occurs, splits into hydrogen ions, electrons, and oxygen. Oxygen is released into air, right? And you already studied, know that the hydrogen ions are taken up by the NADP, which changes into NADPH2. And the electrons from the water are taken up by the positively charged chlorophyll of the positively charged chlorophyll molecule of the photosystem 2, produced by 2 energized electrons, while the electron deficiency of photosystem 1 is filled by the electrons coming from the photosystem 2. This transport of electrons is called non-cyclic electron transport. Non-cyclic electron transport because electrons do not move in a cycle, and the ATP synthesis during this non-cyclic electron transport is called non-cyclic photophosphorylation. Now this is a close view of the abbreviations. PEO stands for pu-18, which is the primary electron acceptor of photosystem 2. Plastoquinone, PQ stands for plastoquinone, right? CYT stands for cytochrome. Cytochrome is an iron Fe, iron containing protein. There are two types of cytochromes which act as electron carriers in the electron transport chain known as those are cytochrome B and cytochrome F. PC stands for plastocyanin. Plastocyanin, it is a copper containing protein, while FRS stands for ferredoxine reducing substance. It is a sulfur containing protein. So this is all about the non-cyclic electron transport or non-cyclic photophosphorylation of light reaction. Thank you.